Every morning you wake up, you're not just opening your eyes, you're stepping onto a battlefield. Not outside, not against someone else. The war is inside your skull. You've got a brain that evolved to keep you alive, not to make you great. It tells you to stay in bed. It tells you to stay comfortable. It tells you you're tired, that you're not ready, that maybe you'll try tomorrow. But here's the truth. If you don't go to war with your brain will go to war with your potential, and one of you is going to lose. Your brain was built for survival, not success. Understand that. From the beginning of time, the brain's primary mission wasn't to make you rich, wasn't to make you famous, and it sure wasn't to help you build a business, a dream, or a legacy. It was built to keep you alive, to avoid danger, to run from the lion, not chase the opportunity. That's why when you want to wake up early and hit the gym, that voice inside tells you to stay in bed. It's trying to conserve energy. That's why when you try something new and exciting, your palms sweat, your heart races, and your mind screams, "Don't do it." It's not because you're weak. It's because you're wired to avoid discomfort. But let me tell you something. Success lives in discomfort. Imagine you're on a diet trying to eat clean, and your brain says just one donut, it won't hurt. That's survival mode. It wants comfort, sugar, energy. But that donut steals more than calories. It steals discipline. Or think about a student preparing for exams, and suddenly they feel the urge to scroll their phone for just 5 minutes. That's your brain protecting you from mental fatigue, but it's also pulling you away from greatness. You see, every time you take the easy route, your brain celebrates. But every time you fight that instinct and choose the harder path, when you study one more hour, when you say no to junk food, when you speak up in that meeting despite your anxiety, you rewire your mind. You turn survival mode into success mode. You start showing your brain who's really in control. Because while your brain was built for survival, you were built for more. Neuroplasticity is the weapon of choice. You have no idea how powerful that is. Your brain is not a fixed machine. It's clay. It molds. It bends. It adapts. And every thought you think, every action you repeat, every belief you feed, it rewires the way you see the world and the way you show up in it. You're not stuck. You've never been stuck. The problem is, people act like the brain they had at 18 is the same one they're going to die with. That's a lie. You can rebuild your identity, habit by habit, day by day, failure by failure. The brain doesn't care who you've been. It only responds to who you keep becoming. Think about the person who says, "I've always been bad at math." No, you were bad at math because you practiced quitting when it got hard. Neuroplasticity says if you hit that problem every day, if you push through the confusion, your neurons will start firing in new patterns. Suddenly, what once felt impossible becomes second nature. Or think of someone who says, "I'm just not a morning person." Wrong again. You've trained your brain to hate mornings because you've associated them with stress, pressure, and rushing. But if you start your mornings with gratitude, cold showers, sunlight, and discipline, over time, your brain starts craving that routine like oxygen. The mother who never touched a computer but decides to take coding classes in her 40s, she's not just learning, she's rewiring. The man who's always been angry but starts journaling and meditating, he's not just calming down, he's rewiring. You want to change your life? Then change your brain. Neuroplasticity doesn't ask for permission. It rewards repetition. It doesn't care if you're broken. It only cares if you're willing to rebuild. Every rep, every second, every uncomfortable moment, it's armor. Stress is not the enemy, it's the signal to advance. You've been lied to if you think stress is something to avoid. Stress is the fire that forges warriors. It's the tension that breaks the weak and builds the relentless. That knot in your stomach before a presentation, that racing heart before a big decision, that's not fear pulling you back. That's your body telling you it's time to level up. See, your brain isn't trying to punish you with stress. It's waking you up. It's preparing you for war. It's giving you the energy, the focus, the edge. But if you misread the signal, you'll retreat when you should rise. Picture the college student overwhelmed with deadlines. The stress starts to pile up, and they say, I can't handle this. But what if they flipped the script and said, this pressure means I'm growing, I'm being stretched into someone sharper, faster. That same stress becomes fuel. Or the entrepreneur who's terrified about launching their business. Every sleepless night, every dollar on the line, every setback is a loud, clear message from the universe. You're on the edge of something powerful. Keep going. Even in the gym, stress is your ally. The burn in your muscles, the shortness of breath, the urge to quit. Your body's literally screaming, we're adapting, but people stop. They back off. They think discomfort is danger. It's not. Discomfort is direction. The mom juggling 3 jobs, raising kids, and fighting exhaustion. Her stress isn't weakness. It's evidence that she's carrying the weight of greatness, that she hasn't quit, that she's still in the ring. Stress doesn't mean you're breaking down. It means you're on the brink of breakthrough. And stress isn't your enemy. It's your signal to dig in, to rise up, to push forward like your future depends on it. You must use the prefrontal cortex to dominate impulses. That's the difference between animals and excellence. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain right behind your forehead, is your command center. It's the voice of reason in the middle of chaos. It's the muscle of discipline when temptation is screaming in your ear. Every time you say no to what feels good and yes to what gets results, that's your prefrontal cortex taking the wheel. You don't rise to greatness by emotion, you rise by execution. And execution comes when the prefrontal cortex is in charge. You're scrolling on your phone, you see another notification, dopamine hits, the limbic system lights up, you want to tap, you want to dive into the rabbit hole of distractions, but then, boom, you stop. You breathe, you lock in. That's not luck. That's not willpower. That's the prefrontal cortex flexing like a mental warrior pulling you out of the trap. Or when you're in traffic and someone cuts you off, your anger flares, you want to scream, but instead you take control, you smirk and keep driving. That's not weakness. That's a sniper-level focus. That's emotional intelligence powered by neural discipline. Imagine a teenager studying while their friends are out partying. The urge to quit is overwhelming, but they say, not now, my time is coming. That voice of long-term vision, that's the prefrontal cortex. Or the person tempted to blow money on something flashy, but instead invests in a course, a book, a mentor. That's how you build empires. Not from impulse, but from intention. The more you use the prefrontal cortex, the stronger it gets. It becomes your superpower. It silences cravings, delays gratification, and locks you into mission mode. You don't dominate life by reacting. You dominate by choosing. Thoughtfully, ruthlessly, relentlessly. That's how legends are made. Daily deliberate struggle rewires identity. Not occasional effort, not random motivation, but the daily grind, the intentional battle against comfort is what reshapes who you are at the core. Identity isn't something you're born with, it's forged in repetition. You're not lazy, unmotivated, or average. You've just repeated patterns that told your brain, this is who I am. But the moment you struggle on purpose, when you wake up early by force, when you do the workout even when tired, when you study when no one's watching, that struggle becomes the sculptor of your new self. Picture someone who's always been shy, afraid to speak in public. Every day they challenge themselves to speak up in meetings, to make eye contact, to introduce themselves to strangers. It's awkward, it's painful, but that discomfort is carving a new, confident, capable, commanding, or think about the person who's always been broke. They decide to wake up at 5 a.m., learn about finance, cut unnecessary spending, and build skills. That daily financial discipline, that conscious resistance to old habits, starts rewiring how they see themselves, not as a victim of poverty, but as an architect of wealth. The gym goer who lifts heavier weights each week, not because it's fun, but because it's hard. That's identity being rewritten with every rep. The artist who shows up to create even when inspiration is dry, that's not talent, that's transformation. The mother battling anxiety but still showing up strong for her kids, that's identity being built in real time. Daily, deliberate struggle is how you prove to yourself that the old you is gone, that a new version, sharper, stronger, more relentless, is emerging. Not from ease, but from earned evolution. The brain doesn't care about who you wish to be. It rewires according to who you show up as, consistently, deliberately, daily. Win the first hour of the day, win the war. That first hour is the throne. It's where kings are crowned and battles are either lost or won before they even begin. You think it doesn't matter if you hit snooze. You think checking your phone first thing is harmless. That first hour programs your nervous system, your focus, your discipline. If you start the day in chaos, distraction, and passivity, your brain learns to follow, not lead. But when you take command of that hour, when you wake up with intention, you train your brain to conquer. The alarm goes off at 5 a.m. You're tired. Every cell in your body says, sleep more. But you rise, you stretch, you move. That one decision right there is a declaration. Today, I'm not being led, I'm leading. Picture the entrepreneur who uses the first hour to journal goals, visualize wins, and crush a cold workout. That energy, that clarity becomes a mental weapon. Every deal, every meeting, every decision after that is sharper, cleaner, more precise. Or think about the student who wakes early, studies when the world's asleep, and sharpens their edge while others hit snooze. That first hour separates A players from average. The mother who uses that hour to meditate before the chaos of parenting begins, that moment of peace becomes armor. The artist who creates before the world demands attention, that early flow unlocks brilliance. And the athlete who trains in silence before the sun rises, that's where champions are built, not in the lights, but in the shadows. The first hour isn't about productivity, it's about power. It's about sending a message to your brain, your body, your spirit. I run this. Because when you win the first hour with relentless intention, with unshakable control, with purpose and precision, you set the tone to dominate everything that follows. Discipline is a neurochemical addiction. Make it yours. It's not just a mindset. It's not just a habit. It's chemistry. It's dopamine, earned, not stolen. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, your brain rewards you. Every time you wake up early, push through the workout, finish the hard task, you're not just getting results, you're getting high on progress. That's the real addiction. And once your brain starts associating pain with power, effort with identity, and consistency with confidence, you become unstoppable. Most people are addicted to comfort. They chase quick dopamine from junk food, social media, sleeping in. But that's fake fire. It burns fast and leaves ashes. You want to be different? Train your brain to crave earned dopamine. That feeling when you've run 5 miles before sunrise, when you've studied for hours while others wasted time, when you've said no to the easy route and yes to the hard one again and again. That's real dopamine. That's the kind that builds warriors, not wanderers. Think about the construction worker who wakes up before dawn not because he wants to, but because he must. That repeated sacrifice turns into a rhythm, and eventually a hunger. Think about the writer who stares at the blank page every morning and types anyway. The student who studies even when their friends are out. The fighter who trains on the days he feels weakest. Their discipline becomes a drug, not one that destroys, but one that rebuilds. At first it hurts, it feels unnatural, but the more you do it, the more your brain starts begging for that structure, that fire, that focus. You go from I have to I need to, because the brain doesn't care what you feed it, it just builds habits around repetition. Feed it greatness, feed it grit, feed it discipline until it gets addicted to the grind. Rest is a weapon, but only after the battle. You don't earn recovery by waking up tired. You don't get to retreat before you've even advanced. Rest is not a reward for wishing, it's the reward for warfare. You sleep like a king only after you've fought like a soldier. Too many people use rest as an excuse. They call it self-care when they haven't done the work. That's not rest. That's escape. Real rest rebuilds the body after you've broken it with effort. Real rest heals the mind after you've stretched it past its limits. Rest should be earned, not assumed. Picture the athlete who trains until their muscles burn, their lungs ache, their mind begs them to stop. That sweat, that struggle, that's the price of rest. When they finally sleep, it's deep, it's earned, it becomes a weapon for growth because it's rooted in sacrifice. Or think about the entrepreneur who grinds for 14 hours, building, failing, trying again. When they finally unplug, their brain doesn't rest in guilt, it rests in victory. That's the kind of rest that resets the nervous system like a warrior sharpening a blade, not throwing it down. The student who studies relentlessly before finals, eyes burning, notes scattered, time racing, they collapse in bed knowing their rest was bought with discipline. That sleep regenerates something deeper than energy. It reinforces identity. Even the single mother balancing work, children, and dreams, when she lays her head down at night, even if only for a few hours, her rest is sacred. Why? Because she fought. She showed up, she carried weight others never see. Rest isn't weakness, it's power. But it only becomes powerful after you've bled for something bigger than comfort. You don't deserve rest just because you're tired. You deserve it because you've earned it through relentless effort, unbreakable focus, and a refusal to surrender. You have one life, one shot, one chance to rewrite the story they told you, to prove every limitation wrong, to defy every excuse you once believed. Greatness doesn't come to the chosen, it comes to the committed. It comes to those who wake up with nothing but hunger and go to sleep with nothing left in the tank. You want to rise? Then build the habits that kings bleed for. You want to be remembered? Then suffer now so you can live the rest of your life as a champion. Every time you hesitate, remember this. You can feel pain now or regret forever. The grind is hard, the struggle is real, but the dream, it's worth every scar. You weren't born to blend in, you were born to stand out. You don't get what you wish for, you get what you work for. The clock's ticking, the world doesn't pause for your fear. Either you run the day or the day runs you. Either you master your mind or you become a slave to your feelings. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when you don't want to do it. Let them sleep while you grind. Let them party while you plan. Let them doubt while you dominate. You don't owe the world explanations. You owe yourself execution. Every morning you wake up is a new vote for the future you're building. Every struggle you face is a mirror asking you, are you done or are you different? Are you finished or are you forged? Don't pray for an easy life. Pray for strength to endure a hard one. Because when it's all said and done and your name is etched in history, no one will care how you felt. They'll remember what you did. Fall in love with the process, and the results will chase you. You want to change your life? You don't need motivation. You don't need talent. You need a strategy. You need rituals. And above all, You need the mindset of a warrior because the war is real. The war is daily, and the battlefield is in your brain.